Our class is starting a unit now on multiplication. Your goal before the end of the week or in the next couple of weeks is to be able to multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by a 1-digit whole number. Kind of like 1,234 times 5. You also want to be able to multiply two 2-digit numbers using different strategies. So for example, 54 times 23. Good luck! Here is the first strategy you can use when multiplying two whole numbers together. Here I have the example 26 times 6. Well, like you've learned in the past, multiplication is essentially repeated addition. So, as you can see, I took 26 and I added it together 6 times. Or another way of saying that is I went 26 plus 26 plus 26 plus 26 plus 26 plus 26. And once I added all of those numbers together, I got 156. This is one strategy you can use to multiply two whole numbers. It might take you some extra time, but as you can see, it works. Here I have another strategy I can use to multiply two whole numbers together. The example here is 26 times 6, which is the same example we used in the last problem. Really all I did here was break up my bigger number, 26, into easier to manage parts. So, for example, I broke 26 up into 10 plus 10 plus 6. And then I just multiplied each of those numbers by 6. I kept the 6 the same, see? So first I took 10 times 6, and I knew that was 60. That was easy. I did that mental math. And then I added that to 10 times 6 equals 60. Also very easy. And then I added that to 6 times 6 equals 36. And then I added 60 plus 36, and I got 156. So this strategy also works. Now we get into one of my most favorite strategies, and that is building an array to help us multiply two whole numbers together. Here we have the same exact problem, 26 times 6. But basically what I did is I took a piece of graph paper. We've got plenty of grid paper in our classroom. And I just broke up the problem. So I kept my 2-digit number along the top, and then I put my single-digit number along the side. Now, just like I did in the last strategy, I broke 26 up into easier to manage parts. So I know that 26 is 10 plus 10 plus 6. So once I broke it up, now all I had to do was just multiply the numbers together. So for example, 6 times 10 I know is 60. So I wrote 60 inside that box. Then I know that 10 times 6, same problem, I know that that equals 60. So I wrote 60 inside my box. Then I took 6 times the 6 over on the side and multiplied those two numbers together, and I know that 6 times 6 equals 36. So I wrote that number inside the box. Then all I had to do was just add up my squares. So 60 plus 60 plus 36 equals 156. Easy, right? If you don't have grid paper or graph paper, whichever you want to call it, available, you can also build arrays with base 10 pieces. It's actually the same as using grid paper. Here, let me show you why. So here's our same problem, 26 times 6. Here I've written my single digit along the side, and I've broken my 26 up into easier to manage parts. So 10, 10, and 6. Okay, so it's the same as it was in the last problem. Now, if I wanted to, I could just lay out my base 10 pieces. Notice here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that makes sense because 6 is over here on the side. And then up on top here, I've got 10. And if you can imagine, each of these rods would be broken up into 10 equal parts. So as you can see, it's the same as using grid paper. But it's nice to know about in case you don't have grid paper available. Here I have one final way to look at an array for multiplying two whole numbers together. So 26 times 6, notice what I did here. All I did was just draw my own squares. So I broke 26 up into 10, 10, 5, and 1, and then all I had to do was multiply each of the numbers together. So once again, 6 times 10 equals 60. Then I have 6 times 10 equals 60. Then I have 6 times 5 equals 30. And then last but not least, I've got 6 times 1, and I get 6. So if I add them together, 60 plus 60, okay, that's 120, plus 30, okay, that's 150, plus another 6, I get 156. So if you don't have grid paper available and you don't have base 10 blocks, this is another way of using an array to multiply two whole numbers together. Another way that you can multiply two whole numbers together is you can use the lattice method. This one is actually really easy once you figure out what it is that you're doing. Basically, you have to do this. You have to take your numbers and put them into a grid like this. So for example, this is the problem 14 times 56. And if you needed to, you could add in more blocks on either side. For example, you could put in like a 3 up here if you needed to. So you could actually do more than the numbers that I show here. But here's how it works. Okay. All you have to do is multiply each of the digits together. So for example, you can see the arrows in this first left-hand box. You had to take 1 times 5, and you get 5. So since 5 belongs in the ones place, you put a 0 where there would be nothing in the tens, and you put a 5 in the lower triangle. Then you take each of the other numbers and you multiply those together. So for example, 4 times 5 is 20, so I put a 2 in the tens place and a 0 in the ones. Then I can take 1 times 6, and I know that that's 6. So once again, I put a 0 in the tens place, and I put a 6 in the ones place. And then finally, I take 4 times 6, and that is 24. So I put a 2 in the tens place and a 4 in the ones. And then all I have to do is add it up. So this is the tricky part. Notice how I'm extending each of these lines over in the corner. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start in the lower right-hand corner. So in this area, and below this line, all I have is 4. Okay? Then if I look at this next line, I need to see what the value is of the numbers within this space. So 0 plus 2 plus 6, well, I know that that's 8, so I write an 8 down below those triangles. Then I look at my next spot and I try to, there we go. I'm going to look within those triangles to see what the value is. So I see 2 and 5. Well, 5 plus 2, and I know plus 0 is 7. So that is my total for those triangles. And then in my last box, or my last triangle, I only have a 0. So here I can see I have the number 784. Well, now I know my answer is 784. Pretty easy, right? Okay, that's it. There is the standard algorithm you can use for multiplication, but I would highly recommend you use these other ways to try to show your thinking, just because it's important to have more than one way. All right.